All right, folks, I want to welcome our guests back to the show. It is Josh, Denny, and Tyler from the Kentucky X-Files. Welcome back, guys.
Ah!
What's up, man?
Tyler,
I was expecting that, and it still caught me off guard. So,
yeah, there's a recent episode. I don't know why I did it, but he did the intro, and I just screamed in the background, and he was like, "What the hell happened just now?" And I'm like, "It's my bird. My bird calls."
He's dying.
I'm sure the listeners are probably like, "What in the hell is he doing?"
Yeah, not one has ever commented on it either.
Right.
Like, stop doing that.
I'm on the podcast, and I still don't understand why you do it.
I don't really
Makes
know.
me laugh every time, so I'm all right.
Yeah.
with it.
Some things are not meant to be understood. Just some things are not meant to be understood. Denny is clearly one of those people. So it's really good to have all three of the Robins back in the Bat Cave tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you guys back. I listened to your episode after you guys were on the show, and you literally had me almost pissing my pants. I was laughing so hard at some of it. It was so hilarious.
They were nervous, yeah.
But it was great. It was great. It was awesome. So what's life been like since you guys made your first appearance on the show, man? What's been going on? How have you guys been doing with the show? What's been happening?
It's been good, man. It's been rolling just steady, and after I guess a lot of your very dedicated folks that listen to you have come over, and I don't know. I mean, it seems like some of them like us, so they've been hanging around, and it's awesome, And it's kind of, hanging out with you, getting to talk to you, it's kind of a flex,
right?
We're like, yeah, it's no big deal. We're Brian's best friends.
Don't ask him directly.
Don't ask him about it. But he'll just deny it.
He's just embarrassed about it.
Well, you're here, so there's got to be something to it, right? You wouldn't be back if there wasn't something there. I don't know exactly what it is. It may be indigestion. I'm not sure.
Best friend.
Like, yeah, I think the most fun the entire episode was the Robin thing, and I did like the idea of maybe you guys doing like the Sasquatch Odyssey after show. I thought that was a really good idea.
Oh my god, yeah.
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 Dude, the Sasquatch Odyssey after dark.
Yeah.
Under the Kentucky skies.
Yep.
we might have to talk about that after we finish up here. But I was going through, we didn't really have anything to talk about tonight. So I just kind of made some shit up as I was looking through your catalog of shows that you guys have been doing recently. And a lot of stuff stuck out to me, right? That you guys have had some really interesting guests on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, if you guys would indulge me a little bit.
Absolutely.
The Nessie drone show that you guys just did.
Yeah.
Right? It broke down. I was listening to it as I was driving from the store today, and I was like, I haven't seen the video, so I'm kind of in the dark about it. So why don't you guys, one of you, whoever wants to take the question, kind of talk about the Nessie drone video, what it is, and then kind of talk about what you guys talked about on the show about it, and where are you on the whole Nessie thing?
You remember
it was a found footage.
Yeah.
So, it was like 2 years old, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or a year old?
It's what's it? It's like Greg Outdoors or something
like that. Yeah.
And they were filming. They were canoeing in Loch Ness, and they were filming with a drone to get footage to kind of weave in and out of their video. And it was like 2 years later, someone's watching the footage and goes, "What is that swimming in the water right there?" So they actually came back and re-uploaded it, because this channel that we're talking about, this is not their subject matter.
No, they're like
at all. Yeah, it's like canoeing and camping and fishing and just sporting, enjoying, going outside. Go outside, people. And it's like, here's this thing, and I remember it came across my lap, and I'm looking at it like, what? That's cool. This is neat.
And that was before we found the 4K version.
Yeah. And so we just like spent a night just dissecting it, and it was creeping us out quite a bit, because we're like, dude, if this is fake, this is really, really good. My son is an animator. Like, he's computer graphics animator, right? He's got a big YouTube channel, and he's into this. And I showed it to him, and he's like, okay. He's like, this can be faked, but it's extremely hard. And I'm like, all right. And so I asked him what you have to do. He's like, you basically have to build the layers. and you have to like lay them over this footage, and then you have to lay water over it, and then you have to blend that water with what's around it already, and then you have to make sure that your lighting matches frame by frame,
and everything has to react together.
Yeah. So he's sitting there telling me that like, oh, this is like, if you were going to animate this, man, this would be 6 to 7 months of work to get this to happen. Because you'd be, you know, if someone or if you didn't like optimize the lighting perfectly, someone on a, you know, laptop somewhere would be like, oh, there's a blotch right there. You can tell it's fake. And it just doesn't have any of that. So it's really, really cool. It's like, if you look it up, it's like you can find it by putting in like a drone footage of Loch Ness Monster or something like that. And you'll find it.
Yeah.
It's incredible footage.
It's a beach scene with like canoes. And was it like 35 seconds into the actual 4K video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were like, we went into detail all the way down to the, like the make and the lengths of the canoes. And then using them as our frame of reference to the size of the creature, and then going and looking at the entire plesiosaur family, or, you know, paleontology, whatever family that they've discovered thus far.
Yeah.
And literally finding like, okay, this fits, this creature here fits, or blah, blah, blah.
I remember sitting there and I had the 3 screens going on. Discord was in the background. I had the YouTube video that I was stop starting on one side, and I had canoe rentals in Loch Ness on the other screen, trying to find out what the average size canoe in Scotland was, which is something I never in a million years would have thought that I would have Google searched.
Yeah.
You know,
on our Patreon, I uploaded the whole video of when Tyler was he took a couple stills from the footage, and he was like changing the like hue and adding the red spectrum to it and bringing it up and down to see if any of the frames like, you know, differentiated.
Didn't you move the canoe down to it as well?
Yeah, I cut out the canoe, one of the canoes that were on the bank, and I like kind of reference it to the size of it.
Yeah.
But sometimes they would be off, like, but it was a straight down shot. So for the most part, it was about like, what would we say, like a canoe and a half, maybe 2 canoes long.
Yeah. Because we're, you know, Americans, so we don't use any.
Yeah, we don't use
any kind of metric. No. We measure Nessie in canoe lengths.
Yes.
And how long was the canoe? Did we say it was
between 13 and 18 feet was the average canoe in Scotland?
So we were looking at like 2.5 canoes for the official length of Nessie, or something like that. So when he took the still frame, he changed things over to the red spectrum. It's a really old trick, and I know a lot of guys out there that do, you know, like they analyze the footage or whatnot. The red spectrum is a super easy way to pull a fake anything out just like that. Like, what was it? Was it like an Arizona zoo or something where they had a creature on camera?
It was Fort something, Texas.
It was in Amarillo, Texas. That was it.
Yeah.
So we had a picture of a rhino in that same enclosure.
I thought it was a hippo.
Was it a hippo?
It was a hippo.
It was a hippo.
Yeah.
And we same spot in the fence and everything, and we changed it to the red spectrum. Well, what do? You get a red spectrum, you know, of a hippo. When you put the critter that they saw in the same, you know, whatever, and you add the red spectrum to it, it blots it out. This big solid red blob, like they pasted it in there. So we were like, okay, you know, I had to call BS on that one. I was like, there's no way, dude. This is, you know, and we've gotten like what was it, like the last time we were talking to you about like blob squatches and all that? 90% of the time when we get a picture like that, we can red spectrum it just like that, and we don't even waste any time messing with it, because we've had like one that came to us where when we red spectrumed it, the face was clearly in the picture still, and whatever was there was actually there. So don't know.
That
Weird.
That was
Swan Lake.
Yeah, Swan Lake.
Swan Lake Bigfoot. Yeah. Old Robert Judd.
Yeah, Robert Judd.
Yeah. Shout out to Robert, man. He's awesome. Dude, he's a great dude. If you ever get a chance, check him out.
Yeah,
Pumping content out
left
and right.
He's in
I
Canada.
definitely will. I was hoping that the Nessie thing would be real, because that's what really, when I was a kid, I was fascinated by the Nessie thing, right? I thought this thing could possibly be there. And who knows, you know, there was a couple of compelling photos over the years that people produced that actually could have been something. So when I saw that episode, and I kind of heard you, I listened to it today and heard you guys. I didn't get to finish it, so I didn't know what the end result was. But when you initially saw the video, were you intrigued at least enough to think it could be real?
You know, it wasn't as intriguing until we saw it in 4K.
Oh yeah, once it got high def.
Because I mean, it's no secret. I'm the bigger skeptic out of the group of us. I try to keep everything grounded as far as I can. And when we're watching it, I'm just like, man, it's either a really, really good fake, or it's something that's looking like something else.
No,
there's something really there, but I don't know what it is. And then when we saw it in 4K, I'm like, there's freaking striations on its back. You can see the water reacting to it, the light react. I'm what is this?
Yeah.
You know,
hearing Josh react to it was like, I'm sitting there, I'm on the fence, and he's like, dude, it's moving the water. And I'm like, wait, it is?
You can see the waves crashing, like Loch Ness has got small, waves like a big lake does, and you could see the wave. There was one frame, I want to say it was like 37 or 38 seconds. And you can see the wave react to this thing when it gets close enough to the surface. It blew me away. I don't know what it is.
It's crazy.
I think we went down the path, like, if this is this creature is out there, we kept thinking that it could be going back to Loch Ness to breed.
Yeah.
This is like a safe place, and it's open at both ends. Like, it goes into the ocean on both sides of Loch Ness.
Not only that, but I mean, this supposedly is, a relic plesiosaur, right? I mean, they gave birth to live young, and what's the safest place in the world you could do that for something big? You know what I mean? You could go to Loch Ness.
No.
Going off.
Apparently, we have a phone going off.
We are professionals, people.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's something to do with Medicare or car insurance or something.
Yeah, it's your car's extended warranty.
Yeah. I apologize.
We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. I used to have a 73 Gremlin, and I would always say, yeah, really, is it the 73 Gremlin that has the extended warranty that you guys are calling it?
Please tell me it was green.
It was red.
Okay.
So, we're talking about footage, right? The blob squatches and stuff. We kind of talked about that on the show before, but just recently it's happened to me. I've had only a couple of people. We talked a little bit about Dogman when you guys were here last time. Mm-hmm. I've had a couple interviews since then with people that have had experiences they claim to be with Dogman. One was Bettina Moss, and she runs a pretty big channel on YouTube, Crypto Normal Encounters with B Moss. Great lady. She's had multiple encounters with what she believes to be Dogman, and some weird stuff that happened too, where she heard like metallic scraping sounds and other things, auditory things that she didn't hear with her ears, but she recorded on her iPhone and some other recording devices. And during the interview, she mentioned that she'd had a couple of photos and videos that she'd taken of these things. And I said, well, would you send those over? I'm going to put them on the website. Well, of course she sends them over, and I had a hard time seeing what she was seeing in the photos, right? And there was a lot of red circles and outlines of things. And of course, my the listeners were reaching out going, I'm going to call BS on this because that's nothing but a tree.
Right.
And I certainly get that, right? And I've had conversations with people about that recently, that it's hard for me to fathom why that is so rampant in the community. Pat from Squatch Talk, I dropped in on his show a couple of Fridays ago. They were hanging out, and I was commenting and saying hello, and he's like, come on the show. So I went on for 45 minutes, and we ended up talking about it on his show. Pat did this experiment where he literally goes out on this path behind his house, and he's going to take some photos and zoom in and get it really pixelated. And he took 4, 5, 6 photos, and he picked like 3 or 4 of them. Completely pareidolia, right? There's nothing in these photos but leaves and branches, trees, whatever. He posts them on his group, which I think he's got about 900 people in his fans group for his show, Squatch Talk. And immediately, he reached 75,000 people over the course of the next week or so. And he's like, I don't have that kind of reach, right?
Yeah.
He didn't say anything about Bigfoot. He didn't mention anything about any cryptids. All he did was say, here's some photos I took on a walk, and he put the famous red circle. That's all it took, was the red circle.
Yeah.
And I was having conversations with people about this recently. I was talking to D.A. Roberts about it the other day when I interviewed D.A. And he's had dogman encounters. And we had this conversation, and it's just I think it boils down to people want to believe, so they just project, if there's a circle there, oh yeah, I see it. It's happened to me recently. I've talked about things that have happened on the show with this crazy ass turtle thing stuck in a stump and just weird stuff that's happening on the property. Yep. I literally was looking at the photos today. I had a lady who has sent me multiple pictures, and she sent me a message earlier and said, I'm not stalking you, but I want you to look at this. She took the photos that I took from my trail cam that were taken at night of a bunch of coons, and she looked over to a certain area to the left in the photo. She's messed with the contrast somehow, brought the contrast up and down, and she claims there's this black dogman looking figure. And I'm looking at the photos, and I'll be damned if it's not like you get subjected to this. There it is, here it is, the outline, and then I'm starting to see it myself, and I'm rubbing my eyes, and I'm like, I'm gonna put the pictures out there. I've talked about it on a couple of shows now. DA and I talked about it on the show that posted today. So I'm gonna put the pictures probably on Instagram at some point tomorrow, so you guys can see them. But
I would absolutely love to dissect that, to take a look at that. And
well, I will text it to Tyler, and you guys can see them first, and then I'll post them on Instagram at some point tomorrow. But
we should send him Alien and a Nissan.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
It's weird that it's happening to me, right? And it's just it's this phenomenon in and of itself that people can create something from basically nothing and then get everybody on board.
Right.
But I said all that to say it's happened recently in the reverse for me, because are you guys familiar with the Paul Freeman footage? Bigfoot footage?
That sounds familiar to me.
I'm not, no.
Well, it was taken back in the 80s. It's probably next to the Patterson Gimlin film. It's number 2 as far as the footage of a purported Sasquatch, right? Yeah. So it's basically Paul Freeman. The first part of the footage is him out. He's casting footprints, and he's walking across this path from the footprints while the plaster's drying. And this creature walks in front of him, and he's like, oh shit, there he is,
Yeah, his reaction is what gets me.
Yeah. And this thing walks across. Well, I was interviewing his son, Michael Freeman. Paul passed away in, I think, 2000, 2001. I may be wrong about the date, but he's passed away. But Michael has sort of picked up that gauntlet, and he's written a book. And Hanger One Publishing, Doug Hychek and his sons are publishing the book. It's actually, I think it'll be out maybe next week, Michael said. And as a part of that book, Doug has been working for the last 20 years to stabilize and enhance this footage.
Yeah.
Well, he sent it to me, and I got to see it. And I have to be honest, the original footage sucks. It's like 400 pixels. It's ridiculously grainy. But what Doug has done is slowed this down. He's zoomed in and he's enhanced it to the point you can see this thing walking across this path, and it picks up a baby off of a tree and puts it around its waist and walks off with it.
My God.
I was blown away, man. That's
you would have never got that detail from the original.
No, and it's you can see it in the original. People have seen it, and it's been a thing.
Yeah.
Doug Hychek saw it back in the 90s and pointed it out to Paul. Paul knew he saw it because if you listen closely in the original video, he says, oh, there's 2 of them. Well, that's what he's talking about. This thing is picking up this baby or this juvenile. And in the enhanced footage, you can see it. Well, I was having a conversation with Thomas Steenberg. He's one of the biggest researchers out there. He worked with the 4 Horsemen. And I was talking to Thomas like 3 days ago. He was in the Paul Freeman camp for decades. Right. Yeah. He was on board with what Paul was doing. He was, there was always people naysaying, saying his encounters weren't real. His stuff was faked, that kind of thing. And then he changed his mind. And now he believes that what Paul was doing was faking footprints. And he didn't believe that any of his videos are real. And I told Thomas, I said, dude, if you haven't seen this video yet, press pause on that, because I think it might change your mind. And he agreed. He was like, when I get to see it, I'll be more than happy to admit if I'm wrong, but I'm like, I don't know how you can say that. And of course you could fake that. Yeah. That's what everybody goes to is it's kind of like the Patterson Gimlin film. Everybody points to, well, why would you make a female? If you're going to fake something, why would you go to the point of putting breast on it? It's just too much. But some people argue that it's just enough, right? If it is a female and it looks like it's too hard to fake, then that's really what you want in a hoax. It needs to be too good to be faked for it to be real. And that was his argument, well, if you're going to fake something, well, why not try to fake a baby? He said that could have been a doll or whatever. And I'm like, doesn't look like a doll to me, dude. It looks like a feet on a baby primate. But I digress. It is what it is. But speaking of Nessie, you guys did a show recently where you talked about possibly Patty might have been the last of her kind. I was very intrigued about that. Tell us a little bit about what you guys talked about on the show and where you came down on that at the end.
That was Josh. It was his hypothesis. He was like, what if
that's why that's the one footage that we've all seen that we all everybody throws their hands up and it's like, well, I don't know if it's real or fake. What if that was the last, you know? And one of my theories behind that is that anytime you see footage, pictures of female primates, they're always with an adolescent or a baby. They've always got the young with them, and she's alone in the footage. Maybe she's the last of her kind. Yeah. And maybe that's why we haven't had anything as good as that footage, even with the modern cameras we have. It was just a rolling idea, and we made a whole episode about it.
I thought it was to me personally, it was like I'm not fully on board that there was just one left, but I love the exercise of it. It's like, okay, let's take this theory, and let's work the problem. Let's work it. Let's figure this out. Can this be it? And I love it because it always leads to more and more hypotheses where we can eliminate things in regards to it. Like, if it is the last, then that lends a lot of credence to why you haven't seen anything else that's as mind-blowing. And if it's even in the episode, I even went on to say that even if it wasn't the last one, but one of the last ones, it still is the same scenario. Because if she's, all the way in the Pacific Northwest and the only viable male capable of breeding is way up in Canada, how do they find each other? How does that work? Is that what the screams are? Are they calling for a mate? What is it? So I love it. I love that type of, take on it. I'm not opposed to like Josh. He's the skeptic. He's firm in his beliefs. And I love that because you can't get too carried away because you got your anchor in the corner here. He keep your foot on the ground, And sometimes I'll get too into it. And I'm like, well, hey, there's this. And what about this? And then I like the diversity of that. And we had one comment pop up like instantly that was like, they didn't even listen to the episode. They were like, but she wasn't the last.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, we're not saying she was definitively.
We even titled it as a question.
What if? There's a big what if there,
Yeah, I think I was leaning towards the fact that it might not be like she's not the last, but it's heading in that direction. Like that's what we were saying is that they're slowly dying off, because it's so hard. It's hard to find mates and stuff of that nature. So that's kind of like in that episode. That's where I was leaning towards is that. Yeah. That's why we can't get such really good footage of them.
And let's face it, it's a great clickbaity title to throw out there.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, it's a what if. It's to, hey, like with our folks that come every Monday and Thursday to listen, we like to give them food for thought, and then they hit us back with stuff, and I don't even think they know how important that is.
Yeah.
Or one lady she commented and told us her whole theory, and she said, I know my opinion isn't worth anything, but, and I'm like, well, stop right there. Your opinion's worth a lot. We're not sitting above you here. This is the campfire. You're sitting with us. Talk to us. And
that's why we posed the title of the episode as a question.
Yeah.
What if? Tell us what you think.
What if?
You know, what if? What if it's possible that there was, one in the Pacific Northwest, one in a Louisiana swamp? I
Yeah.
mean, they're not going to travel that far to mate. Sustaining something for that amount of distance would be near impossible.
Yeah.
Your food sources change from state to state. Your climate changes from state to state. It's
Sure.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to go back and listen to the episode. I wrote it down to talk about tonight, but I didn't listen to the episode. But I'm definitely going to go back and listen to it at some point in time, hopefully tomorrow, because it is one of those questions that I have to ask all the time is, why do we not have more evidence? Why do we not have proof that these things are real? And you could be onto something, right? I mean, in theory, if that's the case, then all the people that are saying they're having these sightings are making it up, misidentifications, those kind of things. It kind of goes back to what we talked about before with Dogman. There's entire channels that are dedicated to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of encounters with what people believe to be Dogman.
Yeah.
And I don't really buy it. I think probably 98 to 99% of those are probably some sort of misidentification. And in all fairness, it could be the same thing for Bigfoot, right?
Yeah.
In theory, because what if Patty was the last one, and then everything after that, it's kind of hard to even fathom,
Yeah.
But it's one of the things I talked to Thomas Steenberg with about the other day was population. That's the one thing I told him, because I know he's friends with Peter Byrne. He's known Peter Byrne for decades. And I said, when I had Peter Byrne on the show, that's the one thing I disagreed with him about, is because he doesn't think that Bigfoot has ever, and certainly does not now, exist east of the Rockies. And I just don't buy that. I don't buy that it's never happened. Could be the case now. I just don't believe that it's not been, because I've talked to so many people in the southeastern United States in particular that have had encounters that I believe to be true encounters with these things. And Thomas said for a long time he was on that train with Peter Byrne. He's like, I completely 100% agreed with him until I came to New York State. He said, I made a trip to New York State and I was blown away, because most people think that New York State is just sprawling urban sprawl and a few trees and parks dotted in there. And he said it's the complete opposite. There's cities here and there, and then it's just this sprawling area where these things could exist. And if there's black bear there, and there are, then certainly in theory there could be Bigfoot, right?
Right.
So I don't know. The other thing I want to talk about, I know after you guys were on the show, you got hooked up with my buddy Glenn from Kentucky. And I know you guys had him on the show. Tell us a little bit about that episode. What did you guys think of Glenn and his stories? Because I know he's got some really interesting encounter stories with Bigfoot and UFOs that continue almost daily.
I know when we did that episode, Josh was preparing a feast. He couldn't be on the episode, but he was preparing a big cookout, so there was no way. We ended up recording it at my place, and I live way out in the woods, and it was literally me and him with a fire. We were doing it outside, had our setup at our his picnic table, fire going, see the stars in the sky, and we're just talking to Glenn, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Glenn, he's a musician, a very talented musician.
Yeah.
And listening to, he set it up for us. He told us about his music history, everything he's done, well, not everything obviously, but a lot of what he's done. And we got in this discussion about why is it that musicians seem to be very drawn to the unknown. And he has some really his insights to that alone, I thought were awesome. He pretty much was explaining to us that to be musicians and to create, we have a band that we play music together, and we've got different projects we work on. We're always writing, sending each other stuff. But he was saying you have to open yourself, to be able to create, to let these energies flow, and to let this creative force. And he said that when you're open like that, you're receiving all this information and you're channeling it through your instrument. You're doing this. And it was really, really cool. And I really enjoyed talking to him. It was really refreshing, I don't know. I really had a fun time talking to him. He wants us to come hang out. And I'm like, man, I am completely down to do it, but we got to bring some guitars, some acoustic guitars or something, you know what I mean? And get in the cave and just rock out. You know what I mean? This has to happen.
That's my favorite. That's my next to a piano. The acoustic guitar is my favorite instrument to sing with. So I called Glenn about 3 or 4 days ago. I actually woke him up from a nap, and the first thing he said to me was, "Hey, have you talked to those guys from the Kentucky X-Files? I want you guys to come out and hang out." And I'm like, I'm going to talk to them on Friday. And yes, I think it would be a blast for all of us to come out and hang out on the property and skywatch. He sends me these interesting videos of this UFO that he records like almost daily.
Yeah.
It's like a daily update I get from Glenn in either my messenger, or he'll send it in an email. Sometimes he texts me these videos of this thing, and it's literally just hanging out over his house.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Wild.
I couldn't imagine what that would be like, just to be able to know that you can walk outside and say, "Oh, there's going to be a UFO tonight." You know what I'm saying? Josh, you look like you got something profound to say.
Was Glenn the one that sent the green light in the woods picture?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's actually, we analyzed one of his pictures at the end of the Nessie episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think Glenn knows about that unless he's been listening. He might be keeping up, but we
didn't post that video up.
it's on
it's
the
on
Patreon.
Patreon.
It's on
Yeah.
the Patreon.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wanted to say, when we were talking to him, he said that he was actually abducted, and what it said to him was, they said it telepathically, saying that I'm trying to, I'm helping you evolve. And
Yeah.
that got me. He's like, what? I guess to help him see, evolve into what?
The one thing too, I mean, it is in that same thread, is that Glenn tells you what happened and then supplies, here's this, here's the picture, here's this. I saw this crazy portal in the woods. Here's a picture of it I snapped. I mean, it's one thing, when you talk to folks where they're like, I don't really have anything clear to show you. But it's another thing when the person you're talking to is like, oh, yeah, here's the picture of this when this happened. I snapped a picture with this. And he said he was using like an older cell phone so that he knew it couldn't be, whatever. And I'm like, this dude's prepared. Like he's not messing around. He's legit trying to show you, we have a couple folks from down in southwestern Kentucky that have been sending us updates about their property. They have multiple jellyfish UFOs that are hanging out over their property at night. And they've sent us just pages of footage, and they want us to come down and hang out with them so we can see them ourselves. And they're out there. These folks are there. Glenn is one of them. I mean, I really enjoyed talking to Glenn. He's the real deal.
The one that got me, when he said that he was abducted, he saw one of them, and he described it as a praying mantis.
Yes.
It looked like a praying mantis. And I've heard that before in some other people's encounters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it several times, and it freaks me out every single time I hear it, because I can't even fathom being in a room with something that looks like that.
Yeah.
And I've had Glenn on the show at least a couple of times, and we've corresponded ever since the first time he was on the show. I could tell he was one of those really down to earth, legit guys, and he's had my cell phone number for over a year and a half, and he's the real deal. I believe everything that he says, he tells me, and that's rare for me in this. I've talked to a lot of people on the show, and Glenn is just one of those people that he has no reason to lie.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing for him to gain. And he just tells his story like it is. And he's like, you can believe me or not, I don't care. But this is what happened to me. And he's had some really fascinating stuff happen to him. And
we had a guest recently, Brian. I was actually really excited to bring up to you. The guy's name was, he wanted to be anonymous because his job is he's kind of a high profile job, and he was afraid that some of the details he gave us might hurt his job, and we don't want that. But his job basically would send him to pretty remote spots to help find what was it was like
like power lines.
He
He
was
would be on call.
611 call before you dig type thing.
Yeah, stuff like that, but it's like who he works for is we can't go into, but he had a face-to-face encounter with what he believed was a dog man, but he doesn't believe it's a dog man. What he described was a Dinopithecus or a baboon. And this guy was to date, I would say Glenn is a super down-to-earth person to talk to. I'd say that T rivaled him in that same down-to-earth. This guy reiterated to us, I've never seen a Sasquatch, guys. And I think what I saw might help you guys with the whole dog man problem. He was more talking to us to give us like, hey, here's what happened. I think that people are seeing this. So we did some research on it. The spot that he the spot that he saw the thing multiple times, and not just one. He saw one the first time, I think it was, and then he saw like basically a pack of them.
Yeah.
And he described a baboon that was not, maybe not quite baboon size, but say 10 to 15% larger. And even the hair tusks or whatever, the tusks of hair on its, back were wilder.
And pointed ears.
Yeah, like the pointed ears and all that. And he walked up on this thing while it was eating a deer. And it stood its ground and actually tried to bluff him. And he literally, he didn't do anything, but he was prepared to, if you know what I mean. Like he was, So he starts telling us about this. As soon as he starts giving me the details, I go right to work. I'm pulling up information and I'm looking. What do I find? Somewhere, a couple decades ago, about 50 baboons were misplaced. About one state north of us, put it that way. And there's no record on file of how many they actually recaptured.
Right. Just how many got out.
Right.
Somebody thought an 8-foot fence was enough, or a 6-foot fence.
Yeah, it was an 8 foot.
Was it 12?
It was 12.
Okay. It was one canoe tall.
One canoe tall.
Okay. So these things, they turned them loose in this enclosure they're building. And these things literally within minutes are up and over the fence and gone.
Imagine that.
And they're leaving like fruits and stuff out, trying to lure them back and just having the worst luck.
There's pictures of them just sitting like next to people's tree lines.
Yeah. This, one guy sends us a picture or I'm sorry. I don't want to give the wrong idea. I found a picture where a guy randomly sent in this picture, not on a cryptid page of any sort. He was like, check this out. This was literally at my fence line. And there's a baboon sitting at his fence line. And it's like, this is barbed wire fence in the county, So we're like, okay, so what happens when you turn a baboon loose in a place where there's calories everywhere? They're not struggling to survive anymore. They're just getting bigger.
It's not like there's a lot of predators to contend with.
Yeah, and they're a big enough pack. He's agreed to set up trail cams for us and record all the audio he's been hearing. He can hear their chattering at this location. So, dude, the snout, the fangs, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, a lot of people say they're ripped up. They're like shredded like a julienne salad, but I don't know, man. It just seems like it might fit. I'm still kind of like, I want it to be a kangaroo really bad, just so I can go out there and be like, I told you it was a kangaroo.
I mean, it could still be, because, there are errant kangaroos in Texas.
Yeah. I don't know, man. But
So-
yeah, I thought bringing that guest up to you, I thought
Yeah,
you'd enjoy that.
I wanted to bring that up when he was talking about Dogman, but I was like, I kept forgetting
I
about
mean,
it.
it's a viable solution.
Well, the last time you were here, Denny, you're the one who brought up the kangaroo thing, and I started going down that rabbit hole. I'm actually going to do an entire show, I think, of just reading some stories and talking about that as a possibility for Dogman, because I've said it so many times, it just doesn't make sense to me that a creature like what people describe as a Dogman would exist. And
Yeah.
obviously not every dogman encounter can be chalked up to these 50 possible baboons and whatever
yeah.
state you're talking about, right?
Sure.
But
Right.
it could be a combination of a couple of different things, right? Because I think when people get into the woods and they're not used to certain things, you start filling in the gaps with what you don't know, and you know,
Yeah.
you see something and you're not sure, and then so everybody does that. It's human nature that people do that. So
Sure.
that's interesting. I'd love to. You and I we'll have to talk a little bit more offline about that dude, because I'd like to maybe get him on the show and have a conversation with him myself.
Sure. I know he talked to us it was like the literal last minute that he could before he was being shipped off to another state to deal with some major damage down there. So, you know, like I said, I don't want to give the guy's details away yet. I'll definitely fill you in, you know, whatever you want to know, but you know what I mean.
I got you. We'll definitely, exactly. We'll definitely be respectful of that. Yeah. I want to talk. You guys did a show recently about Appalachian cryptids. So what? I didn't get to listen to that either. I just jotted it down when I came across it. Was there anything that came up in that episode that you found interesting or weird, out of the ordinary? I see you guys, Tyler shaking his head. So y'all take it away. Tell us all about it.
I mean, the knot deer, I think. The knot deer. I will make that famous because every scenario I come up with, it's always Tyler.
It knows my name.
It knows his name. It's like, Tyler, help me. And he's like, it knows my name? I'm like, well, yeah, it's all my scenarios. It knows your name. I don't know why, you know?
Right.
The knot deer. I think it's the reason I joke about the knot deer is because it legitimately creeps me out.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Funny, so
I have to make it funny so it's not as close, you know?
And I've definitely been guilty of sending in videos to our own group chat of deer that aren't quite right.
Yeah.
That there's something off about them, where they're on camera. I love it. I have not found a video of the knot stritch yet.
The knot stritch, yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
That one, dude, yes. Oh my God.
Those guys over there, they gotta have one.
One hilarious thing about the knot deer is we've talked about the knot deer so much that my wife raises these little mini goats out on our farm, right? And every year we have this massive deer population in our woods, and the deer do their thing and they have all these babies, and then the deer come up and visit the goats. And it's been this thing that's been going on for the past couple of years, and we think it's awesome, it's beautiful, you know. They're bringing their babies, like, you know, this is what you don't want to be. Those are goats, they're dumb, you know. And when you walk out there and you're feeding and there's just a deer standing there, I'm like, you're good. Okay, you're good. You're good.
You're a yes deer.
You're a yes deer. Yeah. We want to make sure that the knot deers aren't getting too close to the property. That's all. And it just yesterday, my daughter sends me a message and she goes, Daddy, look at this. And she's up there feeding and just turns, and there's this like little deer just standing like 6 feet away from her, just staring at her like, you know,
the deer in the headlights.
Yeah, like the deer, I guess they surprised each other, and she literally was like, yeah, she's like, it freaked me out because I wasn't expecting it to be right there, you know. And I'm like, did you check the deer out? Did you make sure it was? Yeah. You know, did it say anything about Tyler?
And not,
Did it mention Tyler? Because if it mentions Tyler, just run, because that's the knot deer. We know.
Where's Tyler?
Where's Tyler? He needs to help me.
I feel like we need to explain, like the knot deer is kind of like.
It's like a shapeshifter, but it's definitely a predator that's like luring you in by making you think it's a deer, but it doesn't get it right.
It looks like a deer that had a stroke.
It falls in the.
That's what I keep looking at it, because every picture that people draw about it, it literally looks kind of like half its like body is like slumped over. I'm sorry, that's what it looks. Some of them it depicts it that it has fangs.
Yeah,
the eyes are facing forward.
Yeah,
I wish you folks out there could see Ryan right now trying hard to not. He's wondering why he invited us back right now. I can see it. Yeah.
What shade of red is that?
He's got his hand over his face now. I'm just narrating.
Yeah, you're narrating.
I'm trying to find my breath. I can't breathe. I'm laughing so
Sorry.
hard.
Yeah, so you folks out there, if you ever come across a deer and it mentions Tyler, that's the not deer. Just run. You know, don't do it.
It's one of the cryptids that falls in what they call the uncanny valley. Are you familiar with that one?
I am not.
Okay. The uncanny valley. That's a fun place to hang out. That's when things look just close enough, but not quite right. Have you ever seen like a porcelain doll that creeps you out because it's just a little too real?
Oh yeah.
That's the uncanny valley. And that's how the not deer is. It's from a distance, it's a deer, but not all the things are quite right. And that's just what make it creepy.
How many?
I'm sorry, guys. My wife just sent me. There was a birth. One of the goats gave birth, so I'm getting all the pictures right now. So it's I can't. Every time we do this, it's during a birth.
Well, you're gonna have to text me some pictures, man. I'm in the market for a couple of goats on the property, so I'm gonna have to talk to you offline about hopefully getting
right
some
on, man. Right on. Hell yeah.
So I know you guys. I'm sorry I mentioned the Appalachian cryptids episode. Now. That was a rabbit hole I did not know we were going to go down.
I'm sorry.
But I do want to talk a little bit about the Nephilim. I don't think we talked about the Nephilim on the episode when you guys were here before. I've done a couple of episodes. I've had a guest on the show that his entire theory on Bigfoot is they're Nephilim. And he and I kind of went back and forth on him because I don't really have a dog in the fight on the Nephilim theory on Bigfoot, honestly. Where are you guys on the Nephilim as far as the Bigfoot thing is concerned?
I know, like we've talked about the whole like Nephilim connection to it because I think Isaac in the in the Bible it shows I don't know if it's in the Bible, but I know it's said that Isaac had two sons, and one of them was hairy, like red hair, and he was good, like he was very like
he was what do they call him? A man of the field or whatever, man of the forest. Man of the forest.
So and they always said that was like the beginning of Bigfoot, like creatures like that. Yeah. So I feel like that was where it like kind of ended, but they never really like went too in depth with that whole thing.
Yeah.
But like I feel like that was the only thing that I found that kind of linked anything, but it never said anything about being a Nephilim. But
even then, it would fall more like if the Nephilim would be like the giant of Kandahar.
Oh yeah,
because of the red hair and all that,
Is that the one in the war?
Yeah, in Iraq.
They found it in like a cave or something. Yeah.
I think the Nephilim, though, like personally, I find the entire mythos of the Nephilim absolutely beautiful. I love reading about the Nephilim. I love the lore behind it. And, I'm not a deeply religious person, but I love to read about religion. And I love to read the stories that are passed down. And the Nephilim, I love that it's being included in this. It's these are they're basically the what are they, like the half giant sons of angels and the daughters of men, and they're born and they're just humongous, and they're whatever. And I can't help but wonder. I mean, you look back into these folklores. Is this is this maybe a name given from the people of this time for something they saw? We come up with things. We come up with explanations. Right now, we're like, okay, hey, the dog man could be a baboon. It could be a kangaroo. It could be this. Well, there's no difference in that to some guys way back in the day sitting in the desert going, you know what I bet those are? That's where an angel and a woman had a baby, and that's what they look like. That's what happens, and that's the Nephilim right there, and I find it absolutely I don't know a better word than just saying I find it very poetic. And it's it's like the name Sabe. Have you heard that one going around, the Sabe people? The Sabe people is the Native American name for the tribe of the Sasquatch. That this isn't a species, it's one of the tribes. You know what I mean? And I look at that and I say, well, this is beautiful, because they saw this creature that we call a creature. We call it a cryptid or whatever we want to call it. They saw it as a person. These are people that they respected deeply. You know, the totem poles have the Sasquatch at the bottom holding the whole world up, that's like the most important place on the totem pole, because it holds the whole world in balance. You know, the Native American culture, it was a beautiful thing. So I look at it the same way. The Nephilim, the Sabe, whatever you want to call it, you know, I think we're all kind of on the same path to the same target. You know, we're looking for the same explanations. We have different names for it.
And I think the one other thing I just remembered, I think I read this somewhere, but they said that the reason why, like, Moses built the ark and stuff, why God sent the flood was to kill all the Nephilims, like basically kill Sasquatch.
Yeah.
So, to rid the earth of like basically demigods.
If I was to throw my hat in with anything, though, it would definitely be, I would have to throw my hat in with Bigfoot over the flood. That's just me, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ark and all that, that's a whole different can of worms, but it's you know what I mean? I like to look at it more as a folklore that was passed down and edited quite a bit, you know?
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I think it's a great story, but I think it's just that. I think it's a story.
You know?
But who knows? I mean, there's a lot of people who have that theory out there. You know, I want to do a couple of shows on it and maybe get some folks that are really studied it to talk about it on the show, because I do think it's a fascinating part of the entire Bigfoot phenomenon in and of itself. We'll move from something poetic and beautiful where we should probably end, but let's talk about Coyote Peterson.
Oh
God.
Oh, Coyote, you got a lot of noogies coming your way, buddy.
He's the last thing on my list. And, you know, when that shit came out with that skull, I don't know, what is it, a couple of months ago now, you know, I brushed through it. It's clickbait, and I just kind of watched what happened in the Bigfoot community, and I didn't get involved in it, but I certainly have my opinions on it. I know it was something that you guys brought up to me that you wanted to talk about on the show, so I'm going to let you guys take it away and just tell me where you're at on the whole thing. What are your thoughts?
Things like came out all at once when we saw it. You know, it's a replica gorilla skull that you can buy. And it's when you see the details on it, and you're literally looking at the website, and it's like the same little chips and patterns and everything. It's like, come on,
mass
man.
produced because it's identical. Yeah.
Yeah. And what did you say? He smuggled it.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I've been wanting to look up
and announce that he smuggled it.
Yeah, how are you able to transport? Isn't that's illegal to take the remains? You can't even. You have to have a certain allowance to even bring people's remains, ashes onto a plane, because of biohazard, infections and stuff of that nature. So if he's literally just out there saying this, he literally has a lawsuit on his hands.
I mean,
just for that.
Taking artifacts from one country to another. I air quoted the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Artifacts from one country to another. I mean, this isn't Indiana Jones. You know, it doesn't belong in a museum. You know, this is utter.
He ran out of stuff to sting him. He ran out of stuff to bite the shit out of him.
Well, we did.
Oh yeah, we're stinging him, because this is the kind of stuff, man. It's like, we want to know the truth.
I was really excited about it.
I was too. And then when I seen it, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. I want to know the truth. We want to know what's happening.
As soon as it dropped, we all three got on Discord.
Yeah, we're like, oh, this guy.
But I was so bummed through that whole thing when everything that we said, we were like, I was like, God, I was hoping that we could get one for the team. For the team,
we need this
one. And he let us down, and it just upsets me, is because he's using this as clout for his show, and now it's just making other people, like, just people believing like anybody's encounter now is worthless. It's just putting more fuel to anybody's experience by hoaxing this.
Yeah.
And that's what upsets me the most about it is like
it hurts us more than it helps.
Yeah.
You know, and when we were watching the footage, like the first thing I thought of was, this looks like a guy that's never found a skull in the woods before.
Oh, it was decorated like perfectly, wasn't it?
It was like
little nice river rocks all over it.
Like, you know, that's not how that works.
They don't look like that when you find them, folks. You know?
Yeah, they don't look like there's little science fair projects.
Where's the squirrel like teeth marks all over it? Right. You know, like
where's the moss?
Yeah.
Where's the bleaching?
I get upset over that whole subject because it's like I said, we want to know the truth. We want to hear people's encounters. We want to.
It felt like he was making light of everything,
and he was
even with me
insulting.
being a skeptic. I feel like it was just insulting to the entire thing.
Agreed.
You know, because it was just a slap in the face. Like, hey, I've got TV shows.
Yeah,
I'm going to do whatever I want.
Check it out, guys. Stuff stings me.
Yeah.
Now I find.
I thought the same thing when I initially watched the video. I thought, this is bullshit. Number one, that was the first thing I thought, and then I think he came out and tried to backtrack, and he or his people said, "Oh no, this was like a promo video. It wasn't meant to be real." They kind of tried to play it off, and I reached out to him and tried to invite him on the show. That's the first thing I did was I reached out to. I don't even know where I reached out to him on what platform or whatever. I mean, he has no idea who I am, I'm sure, but I reached out to have him on the show because I wanted to ask him some pretty pointed questions about, like what do you do? There's a lot of people who have literally dedicated their lives. It's fresh on my mind because I just talked to him, but Thomas Steenberg has been a boots on the ground investigator. I mean, over almost 5 decades, this guy's dedicated to trying to find evidence that these creatures are real. Right. And he and I talked about it recently. He has not found anything. Literally nothing outside of maybe one possible footprint, and he was iffy about that could possibly be related to Sasquatch. Renee DeHenden, one of the 4 horse, I asked him specifically because there's always been, Renee was, or Rennie, however you want to say the name, was in the field just like him for decades, and Rennie found one set of footprints. He found the Bossberg prints, with Ivan Marks, and most people think those are hoaxed because Ivan Marks's name is even attached to it. But that's one of the things I asked when I had Thomas on the show was, did Renee find those tracks, or did Ivan Marks show him where those tracks were? And he said, no, Renee found those tracks. They were up there to look at a different set of tracks, and Renee went off on his own and found those tracks, and he pointed them out to Ivan Marks. And the Bossberg Cripplefoot prints are probably some of the most famous. I mean, they're the ones that Grover Krantz stuck by until he died, and Jeff Meldrum is diehard that they are absolutely 100% authentic.
Amount of what's the right word I'm looking for? Like in anatomy, you would have to know of the foot to fake that is astounding.
Exactly.
I mean, you'd have to have a doctor come out and build this fake for you, and I doubt it.
I don't think Jeff has went to the point of where Grover Krantz went. Grover Krantz said it's literally impossible for anybody unless you've studied anatomy to be able to fake those prints.
Right.
But when somebody like this Peterson guy comes out and does some of the things he does, it literally diminishes an entire group of people that have dedicated their lives to the study of something like this. And it just really, it frankly pisses me off. So, the clickbait, I don't know if it's worth it for him. I guess it is, or he wouldn't do it, but I just don't get it. And I wish people would stop doing it because he's clearly okay. He's doing all right. He's got his television shows. He's got his followers. He's got his fans. Just let it go, dude. There's plenty of people out there to push whatever they want to as far as an agenda when it comes to Bigfoot. We don't need your help to diminish the phenomenon any more than it already is, in my opinion.
I personally think too, this might come as a little, I don't know if this will be a revelation for people listening or whatever, but for me it was, I have a friend, an old friend that I've known for maybe 25, 30 years, and he is a scientist. He works with like cells all the way down to. He was one of the scientists that helped work on. It was the HIV virus to try to strengthen the cell wall so HIV couldn't travel so easily from cell to cell. And one of the things that he told me was is that with every generation of science, you might run up against a brick wall. And the reason is because there's old science from the past 20 years and they're still alive. These people who have pioneered this science. There's also new scientists that have new theories and new field research and new evidence that they're sitting on. And it's not because they're withholding it from the public. It's because they don't want to ruin the lives of these men that went before them. And what happens is, and even jokingly me asking him like, well, what do you think about, some of these cryptid creatures and stuff that's all over the place, some of these like Sasquatch. What do you think about that? And he goes, you're gonna be amazed when somebody finally comes forward and says, okay, it's time to update this one. Let me show you what I have. Because in his opinion, the science is there and it's already established. It's basically waiting for the right time. Because if you've got a prominent scientist here who's worked for the last 25, 30 years on this, and you just discovered something that proves him completely wrong, you're going to probably hurt his career and his reputation. And these men respect each other. They're not, most of them are not out to cutthroat each other. They want, they're in the business of knowledge and learning and expanding. So it doesn't help them, morally to go, oh, well, I'm totally going to bury this guy financially now because everything he's done is wrong. I've just proved him wrong. So eventually I think we'll hit that wall, or we might be at it right now. And eventually I think new science will come forward, new evidence will come forward, and it'll be an update. And then hell, in 10 years from now, we might be sitting here discussing the different variations of Sasquatch around the world with new evidence. We don't know, but that's a revelation that hit me pretty hard because I'm like, I never accounted for the actual people behind the scenes that are dedicating their lives to sciences and literally can't talk about this stuff because it would hurt too many people, for them and around them. So I don't know. I don't know if that helps at all with, the quest moving forward, but I think it's something to look forward to personally.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things I've had conversations with Jeff Meldrum about is the new guard. We had conversations about this ingrained scientific community that's out there now, the old heads, right? And
Yeah.
he's part of that. And he's talked about how many students are coming through his classes now that are studying under him that are interested in the subject and want to pick up the mantle and continue his work. And he's excited about it. And it excites me because you got these 20-something millennials that are into the subject that are going to take over from some of these people that have been maybe suppressing some of the evidence and not really accepting it. And like you said, in 10 years, it's going to be a completely different ball game as far as I'm concerned.
I think,
and I hope, God, I hope I'm able to edit all these coughs out. I'm a good editor, so hopefully I'll be able to. But I really hope that happens because, like you said, I think there's a lot of stuff out there that people aren't sharing because of the very reasons that you just talked about.
Yeah.
And because you have this new group of people coming through, these millennials that are going to pick up the torch, hopefully, and carry it into the next decade, maybe we'll be having a different conversation in 10 years. Before we close out, I want to be respectful of you guys' time, but I've got to talk about this 2-part series that you guys just put out on your show about the devil monkeys in Ohio.
That's the one we were bringing up earlier that I was excited to talk to you about. That's the guest T is what he wanted to be referred as. And it's an amazing 2-parter, man. I was there talking to him with these guys, and I was literally like glued, like, oh my God, like, dude, this is. And then, like I said, when you listen to this guest, I don't think this is a Bigfoot story. I don't think it's a Dogman story. I think it's something in between those, and I even asked him at one point, is like, do you think that this could be what people might be spotting? And he even said, he's like, maybe some of the time, I don't know. He wasn't like coming to us like, oh, I've got this creature, and it tapped on my window and was staring at me, through the kitchen. It was none of that. It was like, dude, this happened and it's weird and I need to tell you guys about it. It was like, he's like, I don't think it was a dog, man. I think it could be mistaken for one.
The way he told the story was a lot like we tell our stories, where it's nothing absolute.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So it led credibility.
Yes.
Because he wasn't trying to convince us of anything.
Yeah. He was kind of just handing it over to us like, here, I've been carrying this around.
Yeah.
This is what happened. And then we put him up to it. Like, hey, maybe you could stick some cameras up. You could, record some of the sounds for us. And he agreed. And I got a follow-up text just actually like earlier today from him where he finally got to listen to the episode and was grateful. And he was heading out this weekend to put the cameras up for us. And really great guest, great episode. Loved every minute of it.
I was actually in the episode, I talked to him about, because the way that he described it is kind of similar to the sighting that I had back when I was younger.
The bear,
the bear, the bear is it's a bear.
It's not a bear,
but
I'm not bear.
I'm not bear.
So I don't know, like the way like it kind of lend a hand to it. So I was like, I'm a little terrified now.
That's what I say. Kentucky's a weird place, man. Weird stuff happens here. Weird stuff happens here. Yeah.
Well, tell everybody what's next on the show for you guys. Where can people find you, and where can people find the show?
Oh, you can find us all over the place. Just type in your search engine, Brian's Best Friends, and should bring us right up. We're going to keyword everything with that now. So now, Kentucky X-Files, can't miss us. And if you do listen to us, we're sorry ahead of time.
KYX Files.
KYX Files, yeah.
We abbreviate it, but we say Kentucky.
Yeah.
And we're not tired of those jokes.
No.
Tell us some more.
Yeah, the whole KYX Files. Yeah, we love it. Just keep them coming.
Yeah.
I think I made one the last time you guys are on, so I'm not going to do that anymore. I'll link to everything in the show notes. Everybody, I will probably link to the latest 2 episodes on the devil monkeys in Ohio. I'll put that in the show notes. Everybody go over and check them out. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I've had a blast talking to you as always.
Ryan, not only are you just like crazy handsome to look at, but you're awesome, man. Thank you so much. I still am like baffled that he even wants to be remotely associated with us.
Yeah, I was so because I'm like at work and he messaged me, hey, you want to be on the show again here? I was like, why is he still talking to me? Like, I can't believe he's still talking to me.
He heard the episode we were on, right?
Yeah, I can't believe. I thought he would like text me a restraining order, let alone ask us back onto the show.
Josh, I mean, between me and you though, here, don't you think there's a little bit of a flex when Tyler tells us that he's been talking to Brian?
Yeah,
he is in my phone as Sasquatch Odyssey Brian.
So I'm just saying, he flexes a little bit about it.
He's like Arnold in the 70s.
Yeah. So I was talking to Brian about replacing you two.
Yeah. We're going to go camping together.
Yeah. Don't ask him about it.
Yeah, don't ask him.
Just talk to me. He wants all of his questions through me, guys. Yeah. Okay.
Well, once we get off of here, I'll give all of you guys my cell phone number so you can all flex and say you're talking to me. So Tyler won't be the only one.
Dang it.
That's
you guys go over and check out the X-Files. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Appreciate it, man.
They say you don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here.